It's Monday, August 11th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. Ready to leave, homeowners are on alert as the battle with wildfires continues. Feeling soaked, a campaign begins to oppose a water rate hike in Halifax.
And the current heat wave extends through Wednesday, breaking Thursday with showers.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. As we come on the air tonight, 3 wildfires are burning out of control in New Brunswick. The Premier says the situation is worsening. Homeowners in several communities are on alert, ready to leave. One of those fires burning is in Miramichi, and that's where we begin our coverage with CTV's Derek Haggett.
For the 6th straight day, it was extremely hot and smoky in the Miramichi area. The Oldfield Road wildfire north of the city remains out of control and is around 450 hectares in size. Premier Susan Holtz says the situation has gotten worse and there is a possibility of evacuations.
While they don't yet have it under control, they are able to control the direction of the growth, which they are now doing in a strategic way to avoid any, housing or cottages or infrastructure.
Despite the obvious concern, not everyone is worried about having to leave their home.
Not at this time, you know what I mean? In proximity, we're probably about 10 kilometers from the fire. It's dependent on weather, right, wind conditions and stuff, so not at this time.
The last 6 days, a tough go for people who have seen the smoke from their homes.
It's definitely concerning. The fires there seems to be no end to it at this moment, so just kind of hoping that it gets under control at some point. And
a little bit stressful, you know what I mean, in terms of it's always the unknown, right, that kind of stresses people a lot, but for the most part, we're pretty well informed.
Meanwhile, a wildfire in the Irishtown area north of Moncton remains out of control as well. The province says no buildings have burned, but there are 900 structures in the general area and around 1,500 people. Residents in the Irishtown area have been told to prepare to evacuate on short notice.
I asked both men who live about a kilometer away from this detour that in a worst-case scenario, would they be ready to evacuate on a moment's notice? They both quickly answered, yes, for sure. Todd.
Well, hopefully they won't have to. That's Derek Haggett near Miramichi this evening. To Fredericton now, where officials provided a snapshot of the provincial wildfire situation this afternoon. CTV's Avery McRae reports.
Whether the fires are burning across your street or hundreds of kilometers away, the message from the province is the same.
You want to go for a walk in the woods? Okay, well, there's a lovely walk just nearby that doesn't threaten our first responders and our response to a dozen fires in this province that are getting worse by the day.
Of the multiple fires burning in the province, 3 are deemed out of control, including a new fire just outside Bathurst that has few details at this time.
DNR offices, effective 4:30 today, they will be all closing. A number of firefight or DNR personnel are also highly trained firefighters. That's where we're focusing our energies on a go-forward basis.
And more help is coming.
For the first time, I believe ever, we've actually requested boots on the ground from our neighbors.
An additional 30 out-of-province firefighters will be brought in to help fight the fires, with officials hoping for that number to double. 20 are confirmed on the way from Nova Scotia, and 5 each from PEI and Maine so far. The extreme wildfire risk has seen crown lands and trail systems across the province closed to all activities. That includes Fredericton's Odell Park and St. John's Rockwood Park, and even the privately owned Irving Nature Park along the Bay of Fundy shores, which is not allowing any visitors. While not everyone is abiding by the new rules, for the most part, residents are following the call.
Fines are currently in place and always have been in our Crown Forests Act. Those remain in place today, and I believe that to date, 2 fines have been issued to people who have broken the fire ban and had open fires in the woods.
As summer starts to wind down, people are eager to return to New Brunswick's many trails. But officials said today that won't happen without a lot of rain. Between the scorching heat and trail closures, there weren't a lot of people out and about in Fredericton today. One family told me off camera the restrictions both here and in Nova Scotia greatly altered their plans, but they understand and support the decision to keep people out of the woods until the conditions improve. Avery McRae, CTV News, Fredericton.
So how will the weather impact all of this? We'll hear from meteorologist Kalen Mitchell in a couple of minutes. And just after 6:30, we'll get an update from the mayor of Miramichi. Of course, you can get the latest on the situation at our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. And more communities are asking people to conserve water this evening. Some wells in the Cape Breton region are starting to run dry. CTV's Ryan McDonald has details.
The hot, dry weather continues and some water levels are getting low. So today, Cape Breton Regional Municipality officials asked people to start saving it.
So we are issuing a voluntary water conservation advisory now as a preventative step.
While they say public municipal water levels are still healthy, the city has gotten dozens of reports from people on private well water that their wells are going dry. A number they say is no reason for alarm, but is cause for taking precautions.
What we're asking residents to do is to reduce non-essential water use wherever possible, including lawn watering, car washing, reducing the frequency of filling pools and hot tubs, and being mindful of household water use.
If you are on a private well, we recommend that even if you are not currently experiencing a problem, that you begin conserving water.
People who are concerned that their well might be running dry are being told to call the city's 311 line, and plans are in the works to provide places people can go if they run low or run out.
The municipality will provide several access points where residents can bring containers to fill for use for their non-potable water, and municipal recreation facilities are being reviewed with the intent to open some of those facilities where residents can take showers if required.
Meanwhile, fire departments are now being told not to fill people's wells or pools.
There's many contaminants that can be involved in a fire truck, whether it's foam that may be inside of the tank, etc.
And officials say that providing people with emergency drinking water might also happen if conditions get worse.
The CBRM is also looking at distribution places for water that is bottled, if necessary, in each of the divisions, north, central, and east.
The voluntary water conservation advisory is in effect as of today, with officials adding that they don't expect any significant rainfall in the area for the next few weeks. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Sydney.
There's a live look at Uptown St. John right now where it is 23 degrees. Let's bring in Kalen Mitchell and talk about the forecast. Miramichi, which we just heard about, hottest spot in the country, Kalen?
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, as we saw from St. John, there's some coastal areas in the Maritimes that have much more temperate conditions for today, but other areas, those temperatures soared. And yeah, Miramichi reaching 37.2 degrees today, breaking a long-standing record, went all the way back to 1876 for this date. And that 1876 record was 36.7 degrees. So Miramichi topping that today. Of course, you don't want these type of soaring, record-breaking temperatures when you're also combating wildfires. Not a favorable situation for that. Very hot today. Relative humidity was up a little bit, just a little bit compared to last week, but still pretty close. We're actually getting to those crossover conditions. That's when you have the air temperature exceed the relative humidity value, which around Miramichi right now is around 32%. So that's still relatively dry air, so not only hot, but on the drier side. One thing going for some of those wildfire locations for today is that the winds were not overly strong. They weren't non-existent. You'd like still winds if you could get them. But today we had a breezy wind mostly out of the west and the southwest. It continues to be sustained pretty close to 10 kilometers per hour as we move through this evening. Some of the peak gusts could get up to around 15. It is expected to get a little bit lighter during the overnight. And then tomorrow's winds in the vicinity of some of these wildfires still expected to be out of the west and southwest. Sustained in the afternoon near 10 and maybe some peak gusts getting up between 15 and 20. So not overly strong, but a little bit of a breeze certainly around. Now, air quality index ratings around the Maritimes, for the most part, low risk. A couple exceptions, though. In the vicinity of any of that surface smoke that's around areas of New Brunswick towards the northeast of the province, even down around the southeast, it could be rated as high as 6, which would be a moderate health risk because of the presence of some of that smoke. And it's interesting, as we take a look at an outlook for some of that haze, this is the model that I often use when I'm keeping track of the wildfire smoke coming in out of Western Canada. You can actually see that there's a couple of points being picked up around the vicinity of those wildfires in through New Brunswick, and that's showing, depending on the status of the fires, of course, over the next couple of days, that there's going to be some smoke emissions from those and picked up here in the model. Could actually drift a little bit northward by the time we get to Wednesday, Todd.
Joining me here at the desk, we're going to dig a little deeper into this. We know that it's dry. The water levels in wells, as we heard from Cape Breton, rivers starting to get extremely low.
That's right. So I wanted to check in on drought conditions in the Maritime, especially after that month of July that was so dry for us. So I spoke with Trevor Hadwin. He is an agroclimate specialist with the Drought Monitor here in Canada. And here's what he told us about the situation here in the Maritimes.
Dry conditions stretch back a little bit further in Nova Scotia than just the last couple of months. We went into the year fairly dry. Last fall, again, was drier than normal, leaving a little bit of a moisture deficit as we begin the season this year. The last 2 months have been fairly dry throughout much of the region, and we've seen moderate drought conditions turn into some areas that have more severe drought. So when we classify drought, we're classifying from abnormally dry all the way to exceptional drought. Moderate drought is our level 1 classification, and then we get into severe drought as our level 2. So we've seen a couple pockets within Nova Scotia and a little bit of New Brunswick that now have severe drought, and much of the province of Nova Scotia is now covered by a moderate drought condition. When we're looking at drought conditions, especially in Atlantic Canada, the definition of drought kind of varies from what we normally think of it in the prairie region or in other regions of Canada. Atlantic Canada does not have as much water supply or soil moisture storage as other regions of the country. So short-term dryness does affect that region a lot more than other regions. So when we're talking about 2 months of below normal precipitation for your region, we're seeing some conditions that we would not normally expect in other regions of the country, including wells going dry, sloughs and wetlands drying up, and lack of surface water supply for the use of within agriculture or even domestic use. The big one in the Atlantic region is we typically don't need to worry about moisture. It's a wet environment, and people have adapted to that region. So again, when you think of the prairie region, our region gets approximately 500 millimeters or under a year. 300 millimeters is not uncommon in our region. 300 millimeters of precipitation in Atlantic Canada would be devastating. We are seeing more frequent and more severe droughts right across the country. We have certainly seen our fair share of droughts in the last 10 years. We've gone through a fairly dry cycle within our climate regime, and we're seeing droughts in areas that we don't typically expect them. So certainly in northern regions of Canada, we don't expect them as much, as well as eastern Atlantic regions.
Yeah, so there you have it, Todd. Just a little bit of an explanation about why things seem to get so dry quickly here in the Maritimes, whereas in some other parts of the country, it seemed to be a little bit more of an extended scenario.
Yeah, I think that's surprising. I've never heard that we actually have, less water storage in our soil than they would say out west. Yeah, slope of the terrain, the type of soil as well, all goes into factors into basically losing that moisture, evaporating it out of the soil. Speaking with Trevor, he said this is going to be a quick fix to this. We're going to need at least a couple months of some above normal precipitation to, fully recover out of some of the dry conditions that we're in right now. Right. A little bit of shower activity coming up on Thursday. It's not really the significant soaking rain that we need, and I'll be talking more about that when I'm back. Okay, we'll see you for that full forecast in about 15 minutes. Thank you for that. That was really interesting. It's been a week since Nova Scotia banned people from going into public wooded areas, and that was followed, of course, by New Brunswick. Businesses that rely on forests are feeling more than just the heat, as CTV's Emma Convey tells us.
This outdoor adventure park in Nova Scotia promotes itself as one of the largest climbing parks around. July and August, their busiest season, usually sold out on a day like this. But today, that's not the case.
Yesterday it was a good day. Today is extreme slow. Okay, I think today we have maybe 50 people in the park of normally about 200. Okay, so it's a big difference. You feel those impacts.
It's not just the heat impacting business. but could be the province's restrictions as well.
Nobody can take any phones, smartwatches, glass items, any fire starters, okay, or any e-cigarettes inside the park. Before that, we had no problems that people bringing certain items in the park, but since the fire ban is in place, especially with smartphones and those temperatures, 31 degrees.
These come after the government banned access to wooded areas, including trails, campgrounds, and parks. This business is fortunate to stay open, although they're still taking a financial hit. The owner here at On Trees says business is already down 25%. The worry is the longer the ban is in place, the harder it will be to make up for losses through the rest of the season. Many other businesses face their own challenges as well.
The impact has been actually started to feel still a little too early for numbers, but anecdotally we're seeing a slowdown.
70% of sales for this bike shop in Halifax are between March to September. Some are having the highest traffic, but with majority of their customers riding on trails and in the woods, which are off limit, they're worried about this season.
We've already started to think about how we're going to do this, what are we going to do, what can we do to encourage things to happen and stuff. Obviously we can't control Mother Nature, but we can try to figure out what we can do to get things moving.
These businesses understand the need for regulations, but hope restrictions can be eased in the near future to help with their bottom line. Emma Convey, CTV News, Martok, Nova Scotia.
So in light of that, we're asking this in tonight's CTV web poll. Should businesses be compensated for losses due to the woods and fire bans? And your options are yes or no, or it depends on the business. We'd like to hear from you at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. A woman is dead after a house fire in Nova Scotia yesterday morning. The fire happened just after midnight on Tough Street in the Sebeganegati First Nation. The body of a 52-year-old woman was found inside the home once the fire was put out. Foul play is not suspected. The cause is under investigation. The Cape Breton man is dead following a crash on the Cabot Trail this weekend. A motorcycle hit a guardrail just after 3 yesterday afternoon on North Mountain. The 21-year-old driver was taken to hospital where he died. An investigation in this case is ongoing. A large farm equipment fire kept crews in the Halls Harbor area busy last night. The fire broke out around 5 on Gospel Woods Road in Kings County in the Annapolis Valley. A fire engulfed the combine before spreading through a 3-acre field and into nearby woods. 5 fire departments were able to stop it from spreading further in the dry conditions. The fire was declared under control later in the evening. Now, as drought conditions put a focus on water use, a campaign has been launched opposing a proposal by Halifax Water to hike rates by nearly 35%. CTV's Calvin Smith reports.
Halifax's landlords argue they'll have to increase rents if a rate hike for water is allowed, and they fear they'll be blamed.
As soon as you read it, you go, oh, this is bad. And that's why we had to get involved.
Starting in the new year, Halifax Water wants to boost bills by 16.2%. Then in April, another 17.6%. That would see the average bill jump $148, then another $186.
It affects everybody. So we're quite concerned, and we think people should get more involved in this campaign.
That campaign is an online website launched by the group aiming to get support to kill the rate hike.
People are busy today. They don't have time to write a letter or an email. They're concerned about the issues.
The deadline for public feedback to the provincial regulator is now September 2nd. Halifax Water doesn't want to talk about it on camera, citing respect for the regulatory process. The utility says it needs the money to pay down a $52 million debt. There are 8 intervenor applications before the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeals Board, formerly known as the UARB. Those include Russell's Group, another rental organization, Killam, Olin Brewery, and even the province and the city of Halifax. No surprise, given what the mayor said in the spring.
This is too much at a time when people are having trouble meeting their financial obligations. The people households are tightening their belts. I've said before many times the municipality needs to tighten its belt.
The public hearing begins September 15th. Callum Smith, CTV News, Halifax.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Downtown bike lane construction in Halifax is back in the news. Work is underway on a new section, but unlike the proposal to build one on Morris Street, this one was on the books. CTV's Jonathan McGinnis reports.
Take out the slip lane, which wasn't really terribly effective anyway.
That's part of the construction project that has shut down a busy intersection in the heart of downtown Halifax.
We would have loved to have seen this being done in May or June, but it's being done now, so that's unfortunate.
Officials say the nearly $4 million undertaking supports improvements as part of the Brunswick Street AAA Bikeway Complete project, which will link bike lanes in the city's core.
Unfortunately, the process in HRM has been very slow and very disconnected, and so as a result what we've seen is underutilized bike lanes, which then frustrates people that are in their cars and they're sitting beside an empty bike lane.
Business owners are also dealing with construction frustrations.
Businesses don't like to see construction, of course, right in front of their businesses. They definitely don't like to see empty bike lanes in front of their businesses, especially if it takes up on-street parking.
The Brunswick Street-Sackville Street intersection closure is now one of many that has disrupted traffic. Tour companies that shuttle people throughout the city are changing routes to get around the work.
Well, there's no doubt about it. That intersection is a key intersection that we go by several times a day, all day long, every day.
Dennis Campbell is himself an avid biker, but says bike lanes that further narrow already narrow streets can cause issues with oversized vehicles.
I think it's one of those things like there's a balance to everything. I think the bike lanes are good, but there has to be a balance. I don't think bike lanes can be on every street.
When complete, this project will connect bike lanes from Cogswell Street to Spring Garden Road. And Todd, while this area will remain open for pedestrians, the intersection here at Sackville and Brunswick Street will remain closed for vehicle traffic until it is expected to reopen September 8th. Todd.
All right, John, in downtown Halifax this evening. We'll take our first break of the show on this Monday night. Still to come, Kaylin will have the lowdown on the high heat and then some stick work.
Like home crowd, the boys are fired up.
The country's best young lacrosse players are facing off here in the Maritimes, and we'll take you to see the action after this. Many of the country's best young lacrosse players are in the Maritimes to compete for national supremacy. The tournament kicked off today and highlights growing talent in the sport. Our Jesse Thomas took in the action.
Lacrosse has been called the fastest game on 2 feet. It's also Canada's national summer sport. And this week, the Halifax area is playing host to some of the country's best young players.
It's really fun to get to host and play in different rinks that you've seen before and that you know where everything's at. It feels amazing. Like home crowd. The boys are fired up. Play New Brunswick, beat them first game, ready to keep buzzing.
The minor box lacrosse national championship features 32 different provincial teams and more than 700 athletes, both male and female, competing. Nova Scotia is one of the smallest provinces represented here, but the sport is growing in popularity, and the Nova Scotia fans are loud and proud. And decked out from head to toe.
I've got my socks, I've got my tank here, I've got all sorts going on with my eyes and nails and everything. We've got a flag, my husband's got a big flag right up there.
This is a big deal to represent your province at nationals.
All of the girls on this team have just done amazing and they've just worked their little hearts out to get here.
Many of these athletes face off against each other in minor box lacrosse during the summer. To be selected the provincial team is the ultimate point of pride.
We went to New Brunswick for a couple exhibition games, and I felt that's where we really gelled together as a team, played together as a family, a pact.
But with hosting does come some additional pressure.
Because it's wow, we're hosting it. We got to at least get up there. But I think that all pressure aside, it's just a fun game.
The host committee has been hard at work organizing the championships and making sure visitors feel that maritime hospitality.
They've been working on this for several months. They've organized all the venues. They've done a great job prepping for opening ceremonies. It's an incredible amount of work.
The action runs all week with gold medal games Friday. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Dartmouth.
And good luck to all the teams. All right, still ahead, more on our persistent heat warnings. Kaylin Mitchell has the details in the extended maritime forecast. We'll have that for you after this break. That's Crescent Beach, near the town of Lockport on the south shore of Nova Scotia. And this really illustrates what we were talking about earlier, Kaylin Mitchell. 24 degrees there. We saw 23 in St. John. A very different story if you move even just a few kilometers inland.
Yeah, and that's all it takes. Those direct coastal areas, much more moderate temperatures. You can see low to mid-20s, and that wind is coming in onshore off the ocean waters. But as soon as you get out that effect, and then we had the temperatures today climb up high 20s, low to mid-30s, and some in a few areas got up to around 37.
Look, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Do you remember the last time that we were talking about mid-40s with a humidex? It's been a very long time, if at all.
I'm trying to think. We did have a spell of very hot weather, but this is about the hottest that I can recall seeing temperatures on any given day so far this summer, that's for sure. Before we get back into details about the weather here in the Maritime region, I do want to bring you an update on some happenings as far as the tropical Atlantic goes. We have our 5th named storm now. This is Tropical Storm Erin, developed just off the coastline of Africa. As you can see, it is now moving towards the west of Cape Verde. Maximum sustained winds near 75 kilometers per hour. It is going to continue to track west across the Atlantic over the coming days into the upcoming weekend, approaching the southwestern Atlantic basin. At that point in time, forecast to becoming a Category 3 hurricane, maximum sustained winds near 185 kilometers per hour. That's as far as the extended forecast goes at this time for this weather system. But obviously, if we've got a strong storm moving into that part of the Atlantic basin, we're going to want to start to keep tabs on it. So we'll be monitoring this one closely as it makes its way across the Atlantic. But again, so far, no imminent risk to us here in the Maritimes. Taking a look at weather conditions across the country. Gonna have to check in on that 32-degree reading in Victoria. That seems awfully high given some of the surrounding temperature reports, but I'll check in on it. But right now, Victoria reporting 32 degrees. Vancouver sitting at 24, 21 at Calgary, 23 at Saskatoon and Regina. We've got 20 at Winnipeg. Moving off towards the east, here the 30s definitely legitimate up through parts of Ontario and into areas of Quebec. Ottawa sitting at 34 degrees. Montreal 35. We've got heat warnings stretching from Ontario through parts of Quebec and straight on into Atlantic Canada. 35 at Fredericton this hour, 30 at Halifax, 32 at Charlottetown, 24 degrees at St. John's. Taking a look at weather conditions for tonight, it's mainly clear sky. It's going to be a very warm, very muggy night. Not as much relief when it comes to the nighttime temperatures as, say, last week. When you take into account the humidex, a lot of parts of the Maritimes, away from coastal locations, will be feeling into the low to mid-20s, even at the coolest hours tonight into the start of the day for tomorrow. And tomorrow morning, any fog that is around, Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, parts of the Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia as well. We were retreating just off the coast or dissipating, and in the afternoon, very sunny, very hot. Tomorrow's weather conditions very similar to today. Winds in the forecast for tomorrow, generally out of the south and southwest and on the lighter side, sustained between 10 and 20 kilometers per hour. Might be the odd gust between 20 and 30. Heat warnings carry on for most of all 3 maritime provinces, exceptions being some coastal areas, Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick, as well as parts of the southwest of Nova Scotia. Most low temperatures tonight won't be much cooler than around 16 to 21 degrees. And the highs in the forecast for tomorrow across the north of New Brunswick, mostly between 33 and 36, with central and southern parts of the province as well, with high temperatures mostly into the low to mid-30s at 26 to 30 degrees around the Bay of Fundy coastline. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow with most high temperatures 31 to 33, parts of the coast between 26 and 28. In eastern areas of Nova Scotia, a lot of high 20s and low 30s. Directly on the Atlantic coastline, high temperatures mostly between 22 and 26. 30 for the city centers, Halifax and Dartmouth for tomorrow, 33 for Truro and 30 for Amherst, 26 for Chester and Lunenburg, but up to 29 for Liverpool and Shelburne. Coastal areas in the southwest of Nova Scotia, including around the Bay of Fundy coastline, across through Yarmouth, and then moving up the South Shore, high temperatures 22 to 26 degrees, but moving inland, as we just talked about, those high temperatures coming up to the high 20s and low 30s. In the 7-day outlook for New Brunswick, so the stretch of mostly sunny and very hot weather extends all the way through Wednesday. Then we have a cold front arriving on Thursday. Showers, risk of thunderstorms with it. That'll break the heat. And more moderate temperatures expected for Friday and Saturday. Next chance of showers after that will be Sunday. And it's important to note as we take a look at the 7-day forecast for Nova Scotia. Look forward towards Thursday, that front coming in. It does very much look like it is going to be showery conditions, not sort of a widespread, prolonged, soaking rainfall. In a lot of cases, showers could produce maybe as little as a few to several millimeters of rain. If anybody gets caught, of course, underneath the more isolated thunderstorms or downpours, that'll produce some higher local rainfall amounts. Friday and Saturday after that, both a mix of sun and cloud, more moderate temperatures, and a chance of showers on Sunday. And for Prince Edward Island, going to be hot over the next couple of days. High temperatures mostly up into the 30s. And that front comes through on Thursday with showers and a risk of thunderstorms. Breaks the heat, Todd. So high temperatures closer towards the low to mid-20s, both Friday and Saturday.
Probably not great to see that lightning with it.
No, that can be a source for new wildfire ignition for sure. So hopefully there won't be a tremendous amount of lightning as that front comes through.
Okay, we'll see you towards the end of the show. Thank you, Kaylin. Next, we'll speak with the mayor of Miramichi about the wildfires in his area. Stay with us.
Okay, so it's back, the Virgin Radio Vault.
Get your clues with us tomorrow morning at 6:10 and 8:10.
Plus, around 7:30, your shot at $100 to the Orange Store. Good luck.
Welcome back. The center of the wildfire situation in the region right now has to be Miramichi. We're joined by Mayor Adam Lorden. Appreciate your time, Mayor. I can appreciate how busy you are.
Thank you. Good evening, Todd.
Maybe we can start with the latest update from you.
Absolutely. So, of course, just a short time ago, the Premier provided a province-wide update, including some of the specifics on the conditions here on the ground, the Oldfield Fire, as they're calling it, about 20 kilometers northeast of our community of Miramichi. So the fire has now grown to 450 hectares in size. It was 340 early yesterday. So that is unfortunately continuing to grow, continuing to be considered as uncontained at this time, although they did mention in the press conference that the growth is slowing and that while they don't yet have it under control, they are able to control the direction of the growth, which they are now doing in a strategic way to avoid any, housing or cottages or infrastructure. So I guess we'll take those little bits of good news, as we wait to, for some weather maybe to turn in our favor and get back into a controlled situation.
Yeah, no doubt. What's it like from where you're sitting? Can you, when you look out, can you see the plume from in town?
Well, I live in Chatham, across the river from the general area of the fire. We could see the plume a few days ago. It's now, I think, far enough away that we don't see the plume in a super visible way, but we do see and feel that haze in the air. And of course, in addition to the fire and contributing to the unfavorable conditions, it is scorching hot here today. One of the hottest days I think we've probably ever had. And so that is probably complicating things for them and an ever-present reminder too, and certainly a concern as it relates to potential air quality as well. We've opened up cooling centers in the community for folks who need to get relief from the air quality and the temperatures outside there.
Yeah, in fact, Kaylin Mitchell's saying that with the humidex, it's now feeling like 44 degrees in your city, and you've said that this is sort of new territory for you. You don't recall it ever being like this.
No, I mean, it of course gets hot and humid here as it does around the Maritimes, but this feels hotter than I can ever recall.
You're not on official evacuation alert, or folks in your community aren't, but is the city prepared if it does come to that?
Certainly, from the very beginning. In fact, it was the city of Miramichi's fire department crews who initially responded to when the fire broke out late last week. Of course, they've transferred primary responsibility now to the Department of Natural Resources, but our team, our chief and our fire department members are continuing to provide assistance and, of course, to be on standby to help. So, for example, they've been helping on the river, making sure that the waterways are clear of other recreational boaters for the water bombers to refill. and we're offering up space to provide overnight accommodations for firefighters that are visiting in the area. We're told there are over 60 from around the province and perhaps further away who are now working on the ground and in the air to help try to contain this. So we're in constant communication and also communicating. We're joining with the province, issuing multiple updates a day through our official social media channels, our website, and our Void Alert app. And we're encouraging all citizens to make sure that they are checking in and staying up to date so that if something changes and we do need to make those type of efforts to perhaps get ready to evacuate or eventually do so, that they'll be notified as soon as that is the case. But people are certainly vigilant and staying up to date. I know everywhere I go in town, people want to know what's going on, and so we're well informed and we're ready to do what we've got to do.
Do you have enough resources in terms of firefighting, I should say?
It seems as though they do, Todd. I mean, I guess you could probably always use more, but I think that's one of the important elements with those restrictions that have been put in place, asking people to stay out of the woods, for example. And we've added, layered on with the province in that regard. We have 3 different wooded trail systems around the city that we've closed temporarily to echo the province's moves in the same direction. And ultimately, we know that is for safety and prevention. So we don't want any more fires breaking out around the province, because that will pull resources from those that they're actively working on now. So people have been very understanding in that regard to why these restrictions are in place and to abide by that. And, so that we ensure that there are as many resources in place as possible. And certainly we want to give our thanks to the men and women on the ground in our community and around the province who are doing the tough work.
I know you've heard, no doubt, some of the pushback from those individuals who don't like the bans. They think they go too far and the restrictions. It must make a difference when you can see all that in your backyard.
Well, we have not heard that here, and I think that's just it. When you can see the smoke and you appreciate how close it is, and it's your friends and neighbors who, who are at risk of potentially being impacted, I think you can understand why that's important. And I mean, these kind of things are in place to protect people and to protect our communities. So, I would ask people to have a little common sense in that regard and follow along, because it's important stuff to do everything we can to support those that are fighting these fires on our behalf.
The forecast suggests we could be into this kind of weather for weeks to come. What's the ultimate concern, I guess, at that point for you?
Well, we can't control the weather, unfortunately. I think we would all love or hoping and wishing and praying to see some rain for that forecast to change. Our understanding, again, is that the province is at a point now where they can contain the direction of the expansion of the fire. I think that's an important and helpful piece of information for people to understand, that for the foreseeable future, it's our understanding that any growth will be in, forested areas only. It won't impact people's homes or communities, at least at this point. So I think we'll have to just hope that that trajectory continues, while we also hope for maybe some relief in this weather.
Mayor Lorden, we're certainly wishing you the best of luck. We'll be checking in with you, no doubt. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks so much, Todd.
We'll take a break. We're back in 2 minutes. Stay with us. In health and medical headlines, a new study sheds light on ChatGPT's alarming interactions with teens. CTV's Amanda Debison has that story and more in the Monday edition of The Lifeline.
New research from a watchdog group has revealed that ChatGPT can provide harmful advice to teens.
The Associated Press reviewed interactions where the chatbot gave detailed plans for drug use, eating disorders, and even suicide notes. The Center for Countering Digital Hate found that testing ChatGPT with harmful prompts led the chatbot to respond in dangerous ways more than half the time. Researchers say the study highlights the risk as more people, especially teens, turn to AI for companionship and advice. OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, said after viewing the findings that its work is ongoing in refining how models identify and respond appropriately in sensitive situations. A study by Canadian researchers has found that climate change is the major driver of surging algae levels. The study of 80 lakes across the country found average algae growth increased 7-fold since the 1960s compared to the previous century. Those changes were more pronounced in lakes near human impacts on the environment. Algae is the base of the lake food web, but too much of it can suck oxygen from the lake and spawn toxic algae blooms. Finally, a rare neurological condition may explain why some simply don't enjoy music. A team of researchers at McGill University and the University of Barcelona say the inability to enjoy music is a distinct neurological phenomenon called specific musical anhedonia, or SAR. Genetics may be involved, but researchers say that environmental factors can also be at play. It's been estimated that between 3 and 5% of the population could be impacted. Researchers say that SAR manifests as low activity in the connections between the brain's pleasure centers and the areas responsible for processing sound. The study's authors say that understanding the pathways that respond or don't respond to musical stimuli could be a stepping stone to other pleasure-related disorders, from the inability to feel joy to addiction and eating disorders. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for the Lifeline.
With Aaron and Peter. 60 seconds, 10 questions. If you can pull that off, you're going to win $1,000.
Join us every weekday at 7 a.m. for the $1,000 Minute.
There's no market report tonight, but if you want business news, you can find that at B&M Bloomberg. We have a link at our website. All right, time for one last look at the forecast. Kaylin is on the weather deck.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. It is very warm out here, and here in the north end of Halifax, it's one of the areas where there's a little bit of an influence of that sea breeze, so there's certainly other parts of the Maritimes that are even hotter at this hour. Let's take a look at our viewer picture for tonight. This is a nice one coming in from the very early morning hours down at the dock near Rexton, New Brunswick. You can see all the fishing boats all lined up there. I want to thank Nora LeBlanc very much for sharing this picture with us. Rexton for tomorrow, it's expected to be hot. Sunny in the afternoon, high temperature approaching 34 degrees. There might even be a few communities in New Brunswick tomorrow reach 36. Day planner for tomorrow around the Maritime region. Maybe some coastal fog around for parts of the region. That'll be dissipating and retreating off the coast. We move from the morning into the afternoon. Morning temperatures will be mostly around the high teens and low 20s, but they rise very quickly into and through Tuesday afternoon. It's going to be another scorcher for most of the region. Got high temperatures. It'll be up into the high 20s, low 30s, even a few up to around the mid to high 30s in areas of New Brunswick. If you're looking for reprieve from the very hot temperatures, you're looking to head towards coastal areas, including around the Bay of Fundy coastlines, both Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, around the Minas Basin in Nova Scotia, parts of the Atlantic coastline of that province there. Right by the coast, you'll find some high temperatures. They'll be mostly around the low to mid 20s. Todd.
The water is very nice right now. Thank you, Kaylin. You have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. And finally for us this evening, the newest Royal Canadian Navy Arctic and Offshore Patrol ship, the 6th in the fleet, now has a name. The Robert Hampton Gray is named after the last Canadian to receive the Victoria Cross. The ceremony at the Halifax Irving Shipyard on the weekend was timed to mark the 80th anniversary of his death. He was killed in action. The event also highlighted the close relationship between the Navy and the Royal Canadian Air Force, with 12 Wing Shearwater helicopters providing key support on these new vessels.
It's a great day. It's the naming of Robert Hampton Gray, the 6th of the Arctic and Offshore Patrol ships for the Royal Canadian Navy, and named after a great naval aviator, which is why my good friend, the Commander of the Air Force, is here.
It's a privilege to be here and to be able to honor the legacy of a naval aviator alongside our partners in the Royal Canadian Navy.
Naming a ship gives it an identity, and this class of vessel is dedicated to Canadian naval heroes. That is our look at the day here at home. Our next newscast is at 11:30. CTVNewsAtlantic.ca has updates anytime. I'm Todd Battis. I hope to see you right back here tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast.